and this is the Agegroup Multisport Podcast with me, Richard Conway. This is a platform for Agegroup multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome back to the Agegroup Multisport Podcast, and thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode. Much appreciated. On this episode, which is episode 77, we speak to Jonathan Armstrong, and I actually got the chance to sit down across the table face to face with Jonathan instead of the usual Zoom calls that I get up to when I'm doing these podcasts, because John lives 15 mile away. So when we decided that we were going to put this together, I said I'd nip round to his house and we'd have a cup of tea and a chat, and that's exactly what we did. First met John in Italy when, before we went, he got in touch over Facebook messages to ask where we were going out and if we could catch up when we were over there, and we did that, and we raced, and we had a good time out there. That was pretty good. And then caught up with him again at Darley Moor a few weeks ago, and I've said before, I think he pretty much dragged me around that course, which was much appreciated. And after the race was over, I asked if he would like to come on the podcast, and to be fair, he didn't know anything about the podcast. So I explained what the podcast was about, and he's listened to a few since, and so that's how it all come about. So it was really good to sit down and actually listen to John's story. So I hope you enjoy that. There's been a couple of age group qualifiers over the last couple of weeks, and the first one was in Eastbourne, which was hosting the European Standard Triathlon qualification, and the second one was in Cholmondeley Castle, and that was hosting the World Duathlon Standard Distance. And if you want to know the results or information about them, head over to the Agegroup News, and you can find the Agegroup News. You can find them on Instagram at age_group_news over on Instagram, or the Agegroup News over on Facebook, and they've got loads of details of all the qualifications, and they usually give a good roundup of results as well. So yeah, give them a check out if you haven't. It was really nice to see also episode 69's Ben Goodfellow finish third at the Ironman Staffordshire and the professional ranks. When Ben was on the podcast, he was talking about getting his pro licence and having a go at a few races. And so it was so nice to see for him that it's all turning out well, and it's come to fruition, especially after the injury that he had. So if you haven't heard that podcast, like I say, episode 69, and you can follow Ben on Instagram and see how he gets on in the pro ranks. Couple of podcast recommendations. First one was listening to the Hayden Wild Triathlon show, and that's put on by the Triathlon Hour. And Hayden had Johnny Brownlee on, which was it was quite interesting after the incident that put Johnny out of the Commonwealth Games, and they discussed that in the show, so that's worth a listen. And the second one is Simon Ward's High Performance Human Triathlon podcast, and I had some interest in this because he had Colin McNeil on from Race Skins, who design and produce the high performance custom triathlon clothing, and our club, the Wolves Breakfast Club, have got their tri-suits made by this company, and we love our tri-suit. It's a bit bright, but we definitely stand out, and they've done such a good job, and they do some quality garments. So that was nice to hear a bit of background behind the company that does your tri-suits, isn't it? So yeah, give that one a listen. And if you haven't heard of Race Skin, look them up again online. They're also on Instagram, and they do some great stuff under their own brand, but you can get your own tri-suit custom made and bespoke, as our club did, and we love it. And on the personal front, Achilles is as was really still going through the rehabilitation, strengthening side of it. Still walking with pain. I haven't even attempted running because that's a long way off. I've resigned myself that obviously this is going to be a long-term recuperation, so running's out and off the cards for a while, but that gives me a chance to concentrate on swimming and getting out on the bike more, and also keep up with the strength training. And we actually went open water swimming for the first time last weekend over at Ocean Walker near us. It's about 25 minutes away. It's an old goat farm that's been renovated into a open water venue by Adam Walker, who himself is quite a famous swimmer. He's the only Brit who's ever done the Ocean 7, and he wrote a book about it. Really interesting, really nice guy. I've had a few hours swimming lessons trying to learn his technique that he also does. So it was a really, really nice day for it. Water was 21 degrees and it's a great environment. So if you're ever up our neck of the woods, Lincolnshire, head off to Rugby and look out Ocean Walker and their academy there. It's like I say, it's a great facility. Really enjoyed it. And that's about it for now. Time for the main event, and hope you enjoy John's story. Like I said, it was really nice to catch up and learn a bit more about him, and we shall see you on the other side. Right, so here we are with Mr. John Armstrong, who we've raced again several times. He's kindly invited to his house. This is, I think, only the third face-to-face interview that I've done.
Wow. And
they've all been like my teammates, the other two. So thank you very much appreciated.
Okay.
How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So we're going to kick off. John's going to tell us a little bit about his background.
Yeah, okay, so at school I wouldn't really classify myself as being a proper sporty person. I think junior school probably did a bit of long jump, probably enjoyed that, a little bit of running, but nothing particularly great. Always sort of sticks in my mind, I wasn't selected for long jump for the county, and another lad went and didn't do it particularly well. And again, secondary school, I used to like sort of rounders, softball, just really for the running, but that was probably about as far as sporting went at school.
Yeah.
But I always used to use me bike, used to bike to school, used to bike with a load of lads as well. They started off at Lindsay Roads, but I never really got as far as getting into the cycling or anything like that in a big way.
What age was that then, John?
That would be up to the age of 16.
Oh, so early then?
Yeah. But at 16, started working, got a moped, and it was a lot easier to get around on a moped.
Of course, yeah.
For £3 of fuel, and that lasted you a week. So, and that was probably where I took a long time out of cycling. But then again, sort of number of years after sort of going and doing a degree and getting settled in work, I was given a bike. I was working with a German guy that was moving to Singapore. He gave me just a bike. Reasonable, it was a Columbus frame, reasonable spec. And I started getting out on the weekends and getting back into cycling again. And then I got a bonus from work, bought a new bike, got out doing a few more miles. And I think it was just probably the year up to me turning 40. I was talking to a girl I worked with, and she'd done a sprint triathlon. And I just thought, quite like the sound of going to go at one of those. So that got me into trying to run, back into running again. And also the swimming as well, which I'd not done. I probably got as far as like level 2 or grade 2 swimming. That was as far as I got when I was young.
Yeah.
So actually the first event I actually had to sort of do breaststroke.
Yeah. I mean that's quite normal, isn't it? Were you just training on your own, or did you got together with anybody?
No, I was training on my own.
Yeah.
At that point in time I had no idea of any other clubs in the area, any involvement with British Triathlon or anything really. It was just, I used to typically get up before work and run 5k on a Wednesday morning and get out into the wolds on the bike at the weekend, and that was it.
I know you're in Grimsby Tri Club, aren't you now? Was that around at that time, do you know?
It was around at that time, and it's sort of got probably one of the longer histories of being formed. It must be approaching 20 years of history now, but I only joined that probably about 8 years ago, right. 7 years ago. And again, at that point in time, it was relatively small. The club was suffering a little bit, not particularly a great deal going on. The chair of the time was wanting to focus on running rather than a sport. So it was around the time when Cleethorpes sort of started up as well, and there was a bit of upset between
we'll
upset
get
between
into
the two.
That. Just going back to your first try then, what try was it?
It was relatively local, Brig.
Right,
the Link squad,
really popular,
September.
Good triathlon.
Yeah, and still remains probably one of my favourite.
Nice, flat and fast, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Not quite broke the hour record yet, but I did come third in that last year. It was a small field, but I'm not knocking that.
Third's third, you can only beat who's there, can't you?
Yeah, so, and age group win the year before, so
good.
That's quite good.
Yeah, so that was the first one.
Yeah.
And then how did it develop? You got the bug?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It then started, I think it was one that year. That was the year I turned 40. I'd also been inspired by the Olympics and obviously the Brownlees at that time. And the following year it was like, right, I want to do another one. Then it's like, want to do another one, and you try and sort of get in as many as you can realistically within the time period what you can work with.
So what other ones did you enter then? Were they all local or did you go further afield?
Purely local, so sort of Louth. The first year that Louth was done, Brig. There was the one the other side of Brig, which was an open water one I did early on as well. Woodall Spa, Lincoln. Yeah,
because there used to be the three of them, didn't there?
Yeah.
There was Southwell, Woodall Spa and Lincoln.
Yeah.
And they were in like a...
I never got to do it, so that was with One Step Beyond, which are sort of no longer functioning now. They're
that's true,
sort of focusing on the Tri-Society side of stuff and the Outlaw now.
Yeah. So how did it develop then?
You just sort of start enjoying it, and then the only reason for joining British Triathlon at that time was because you could essentially save some money on your race licences. And I thought, well, we get the race licence for the year, then that's £5 off each race. Yeah. And you sort of work that to a sort of level of value.
If you're doing a lot, it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was the reason for joining British Triathlon at the time, and no idea of sort of age group whatsoever at that point in time. And I think it was probably around 2019. I'd been on holiday and I'd read Louise Minchin, yeah. I read her book, how she qualified for age group, and I just sort of thought, I'll have a look into that. All great intentions in 2019. I treated myself to a new bike early 2020, registered for Clumber, paid me £10 for age group qualification, and then COVID hit.
That's duathlon then, was it?
It was duathlon, yeah.
And had you done duathlons before as well?
I had, yeah. I'd done Clumber a number of times, both in sprint and I've done standard as well. Yeah. I like Clumber, it's a good setting.
Yeah, it is. Again, lovely setting, and it's quite a tough course, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really undulating
and even though it was cancelled due to COVID, I still ended up doing that year because they moved across the road to, is it Thoresby Park?
Thoresby Park, yeah.
Yeah, so I did it that year, everyone wearing face coverings.
I think Alistair Bradley was there, was he? Was it that one or the one after? I know he'd raced there, trying to get a race in because obviously there was no races as well, was there?
But I think during COVID I probably did more training than I'd done in any other year because what else could you do?
I think everybody was the same, wasn't they? It was just like unheard of.
So it's a little bit disappointing now we're out of COVID that events are not particularly well attended. All the bikes which people were buying, and
I think it's cost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Things have got a lot more expensive now. Events. I mean, that Darley Moor we did a couple of weekends ago, it's probably one of the cheapest around.
Yeah, and I thought that was real good value. Actually,
very low key. I mean, there's no bells and whistles or t-shirts or medals. It is what it is, isn't it? It's a race.
But you get that many t-shirts that I'm quite happy to sacrifice a t-shirt, but I do like a medal.
Yeah. I think there was a big hoo-ha about, was it Ibiza where there was no medals? And I think in the end, the guys who does age group news, he got some made for everybody. You could put your name down for it, and if you wanted one, you paid. So they actually got some made for everyone who wanted one, which was quite nice.
Good, yeah.
But it just completely messed everything up, didn't it? So what was your first age group international race?
It was this year.
Oh, was it?
In Italy?
Really? Yeah. When we met.
you know, I sort of, obviously coming out of COVID, I decided I'm going to have a go.
Yeah.
Clumber last year, of which I think I was 111%. Got to sort of the end of last year, December, January, and I was looking at the qualifications and thinking, I've stuffed that for this year. So let's start focusing on 2024, hence the looking at sort of signing up for Darley-Moor. And then I think within a week I'd got this is looking good. And then it was the email, you know, you have now qualified, and I think it was sort of a mad rush, 6 or 7 weeks before we went to Italy, and it was like, this is something I've got to do.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because you just don't know. I mean, I was the same when my first one was in Soria in 2017, and again, like you, I was waiting, and it was literally weeks before I knew, before the event, and that was over in Spain, and obviously you're all new to it, so you're like, I'm going to go because I don't know whether I'll ever qualify again. So I can appreciate how you know, you got there. And
definitely. Then you got all the fun of, how do I get my bike over there? I need a bike box, and who can lend me a bike box, and which one fits in my car, and all that sort of fun.
Luckily, from your point of view, though, you'd have had quite a lot of help from the club.
Because
I mean, there must be quite a lot in there that have qualified in the past.
Yeah, there is. There's quite a lot of bike boxes among them, and we're all sort of quite happy to rent them out or lend them out. In fact, one of our members is sort of the charity sort of owner for Platform to Talk.
Okay.
It was a guy from Cleethorpes, who passed away a couple of years ago. Phil Merton.
I remember.
And his bike box is now as part of Platform to Talk, and you make a donation to hire the bike box. Okay. But that's an Allen box, and wouldn't fit in my car, so that was like back to the drawing board. And I was scanning through all the old sort of Facebook posts on the Grimsby Tri page, looking for who had a bike box would possibly fit in the car, and fortunately a lad in the village up, I'd given him a place for the Barton and District 10k back end of last year when I was injured, and he said, you can borrow my bike box, fits in the car perfectly. Although I've got to say, it took me probably about 3 hours on the Saturday before we left to try and get my bike in the bike box. It was a bit of a
What did you do? YouTube it? And...
Yeah, but what the problem was with the bike box, it had the side clips and it had the top latches, and I was trying to do the side latches before the top.
Right.
And then once the top ones go in, the side ones just click in. But
if you know, you know.
Yeah. But one of those probably most challenging things of the whole journey really was trying to get the bike in a box.
Yeah, can be quite frustrating. We had, obviously in Italy, both me and Kate were racing, and we had two to sort out. And I've got one of these big boxes that it's fabric, so you don't really need to take your bike to bits that much. Yeah. So I put hers in there, and then I borrowed one off Karen.
Yeah.
Because she was getting her bike taken over by one of her friends. So I borrowed Karen's bike box, and I hadn't used one of those before, where you got to take it all to bits, take the pedals off and everything. So I just went on YouTube and sussed it out. And,
yeah. I think the biggest fear is when you're sat on the plane and you're watching them loading them up in the aeroplane, and you think, oh, please, that's not my box.
Yeah, they're chucking them on, aren't they? Yeah. I know. It's like, oh, there's a lot of money in that bike. Yeah. So tell us about your experience then in Italy.
It was just great. I wasn't there for particularly long. I think I flew in on the Thursday. We raced the Saturday, and I flew back on the Sunday. Yeah. But just obviously met you morning registration. Bumped into you. I mean, we'd messaged previously to sort of. I just picked up the fact that you were down the road 10 miles or so.
Absolutely,
so I thought an opportunity to say,
Yes, well, it's lovely, isn't it, to meet up with like local people that you can keep in touch with, and it was really nice to meet you.
So the experience of getting out with a group on a closed road just to sort of sample the circuit, something for the bike, and the walk around in the morning to have a look at the run route was really good. Weather, I think, was probably perfect.
We were so lucky, weren't we? Considering what they've had. I've just been watching the Giro for the last 3 weeks. And it's just been so wet. Yeah. We were so lucky because we had perfect conditions, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, although it was like probably about the same temperature as it was in the UK, it just felt so much warmer. And
considering we're on the coast as well.
Yeah. And nice place. I took my arm warmers with me, and certainly wore them on the race day, and that made a big benefit. Started off cold, but by the time we finished, the sun was out and it was quite nice and warm. But the run, I think if it was just short of a 5k, I think if it had been a 5k, I'd have probably PB'd the 5k. So I think I'd have been on for about 20:11. The ride, just unbelievable ride. I do love my bike. In fact, I think we averaged like 23.4 mile an hour for 14 miles, and working well as a team.
You were in that big group?
Yeah.
Well, you caught us up. There was 10 of us, and there was a Swiss guy trying to jump off all the time. Big fella, and I just sat behind his wheel and drafted pretty much all the way, and then you caught us up pretty much towards the end.
Yeah.
Because I remember your bike coming through, actually. I didn't know it was you, but because your bike's so vivid purple, it's a lovely colour, and I remembered it coming through, and I thought, oh, that's John. And then you caught us up, and it was a winning transition.
Yeah.
Second.
I don't know, we had quite a big majority. I think it was like 70% GBR there, but we must have been about a group 10. There was an Italian and a Hungarian that just sat on the back and did nothing. And another age grouper, I can't remember his name, he was at Darley Moor last week actually, but he must have been in the 60s age group, something like that, and he was just so solid on the bike and did my share on the bike and enjoyed it. Probably took it out of my legs a little bit too much, but while you're there, it's just you don't want to let other team members down, and when you're working in a peloton like that, you've got to pull your share, haven't you?
Well, I think so. I think it was like Darley Moor, wasn't it? Where there was me and you were taking a turn at the front, and we had two guys sat on behind us, and they just weren't interested, were they?
No,
really.
But you can see the tactics behind that, and certainly in Italy when I came off the bike, everyone that was in that peloton left me. They were, certainly
it's
in
a
a
fine
draft
balance,
race.
working too much on the bike and saving the legs, isn't it?
Yeah, and certainly in a draft race, the runners are going to pull it back on the second run, despite the fact I still had a real good second run for me. So overall, I mean, the finish, just absolutely brilliant, and it was nice that my daughter had managed to come over. I don't see my daughter that often, and she'd flown over to see it. So
lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's making memories at the end of the day, isn't it? That's the thing.
And it's sort of inspired her as well. I sort of quite heavily involved with parkrun here at Cleethorpes, and I've been a director, although I've not done it for quite a while. COVID sort of got in the way, but I've tried to take both my kids to parkrun and get them interested, and she didn't go as much, but now she lives in the Netherlands, and she's now doing Maastricht parkrun on a weekly basis, so I'm sort of quite pleased it's got her into doing something exercise wise.
I think we had this conversation a while back, and it's how do you get your kids involved? Well, you don't really, they just see what you do and they'll find their own path, but you do inspire them without you knowing it. You know what I mean? It's like they see you what you're doing and keeping fit and how important it is as we're getting older. And I think your kids just, they realise. It's just setting an example, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, and my lad keeps threatening to come back. I think he's done quite a few actually. He's probably not far off 50. But it's a case of trying to get him back into it.
How old is he?
He's 19.
Yeah. Again, it's like, were you doing park runs at 19? No, of course you weren't. So it's like, it's that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I really wouldn't worry about it at the moment. It's just let them do what they do, and they'll find their own way at the end. Cause I know my two have. One's in CrossFit, and the other one, he's back to playing football. So, and he was doing triathlons and stuff. So they do. I think we just inspire them without knowing it. So, so when did you join Grimsby Tri Club?
I think it was about 7-8 years ago. So got involved with them at the time. Transitional. It was change of chair. New sort of life of vigour came in, and Cleethorpes Tri kicked off at around the same time, and there was a little bit of upset over swimming locations, and I think because Grimsby hadn't been particularly well focused at that point in time, they managed to get Andy Carr, who's one of the sort of top coaches in the area for swimming, and there was a bit of upset there, but it sort of started to pick up. I got more involved, so we used to do duathlons out at Clickerman, and we decided to move that, so we moved to the Plough in Binbrook. I got involved with setting up the courses, putting the risk assessments together, and organising them for a number of years as well out of there. which was quite good. I think at some points we got up to about 50 people out there.
Wow.
I think it's died down again. You know, the sort of the membership hasn't sort of. I think we sort of got up to about 150, and now it's sort of dropped down again a little bit, and it's getting the people interested in it again.
Yeah, I think it's cyclic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Grimsby's gone. There's a lot of people there that are really interested in long distance. I've tried half distance and not really succeeded in that area, so I'm sticking with sprints because I enjoy them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they reckon the rite of passage is you start off with a sprint, Olympic, middle, and then longer distance. But it's not for everyone. I'm exactly the same as you. I prefer sprint competition.
Yeah, I mean, you see me finish Darley-Moor last week. I was absolutely spent.
But they're just as hard. You know what I mean? And I think duathlon, I say this all the time, I'm like a broken record. I think duathlons are harder than triathlons because you've got that run
to start off with.
So.
But yeah, within a couple of minutes, your heart rate's back to normal. You're recovered and it doesn't hurt. But you start doing the longer ones, and then for days afterwards, your legs are.
Yeah, I mean it's just a different type of training, isn't it? As well, it's having the time to do that training, I guess.
Oh, it must take forever.
Yeah. I mean, Kate, she's done a couple of middle distance, but again, it's just having time to train. So she's gone back down to sprint, and she's enjoying it now. So. But there's no right and a wrong answer, is it? It's just whatever you like.
But it's nice being part of a club as well, because even if people don't know your name, they recognise the club and they'll cheer you on. Like yesterday doing the Grimsby 10k, a lot of people, if they don't know you, they just shout, "Come on, Grimsby!"
Yeah, because you've got the Grimsby,
because you've got the kit on,
stuff. Yeah. So are you quite involved in it? Do you do training?
I've gone through a phase of I did, but I tend to work from home quite a bit. So when I typically finish around 3:30.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity to get out and run. And certainly in the darker months, I don't like to turbo. I find it very boring. So I'll even try and get the most out of the daylight in the winter as well, and even get out for an hour while the lights fading a little bit. So I don't necessarily slot in and do an awful lot of training with them. I've done the swimming sessions with them in the past. Do a chain gang on a Thursday night, which is quite good, and I'd like to have done that before we went to Darley-Moor, because that's working in a group's quite good. But I tend to, since my father died a couple of years, I tend to cook for my mother on a Thursday night, so that sort of takes priority sometimes.
Life takes over, doesn't it? Yeah. So you're just training on your own at the moment then?
Yeah, predominantly training on my own, and I think that's probably easier with sprints, although you can get a little bit lazy and a little settled in, so you do need a push. Also a member of Lindsay Road Cycling Club, and that's where really I get my biggest training is on a Tuesday night. We do the time trials through the summer season, and that's sort of perfect. 9-10 miles on a bike just sort of fits perfectly with a sprint distance. Last year I had a bit of competition with a young lad that's 20 years younger than me, and we managed to sort of draw our league and walk away sharing a trophy together.
Very good.
So
you must have been buzzing after that then. Him being in his 20s and you being probably twice as old.
Yeah, and that picked that up the day after we returned from Italy as well. So that sort of fell in quite nicely. But the way the results are going this year, I think forget it. I think he's going to take it off me this year. But it's nice to have a little bit of competition and something that's close to sort of give you something to aim for.
Yeah. So what does a week of training look like then?
I tend to do every day if I can. If I give in, I'll take a day off.
Yeah.
But Mondays typically will be a run.
Yeah.
I tend to do a longer run on a Monday. Tuesday would be out on the time trial. Wednesday would either be a short run and a swim, or a bike and a swim.
Yeah.
Thursday, bike or a swim, run or a swim, depending on how the work is.
Yeah.
Friday, I like to sort of go for a ride I tend to finish early on a Friday if I've been getting extra hours in, so I can get out on a Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, I'll have park run.
Of course,
That's perfect training ground again for a sprint, 5k, challenging yourself. Got into a little bit of the challenges now as well with the 5k app, so a little bit of tourism, going around doing other people's park runs and trying to do all the challenges on the 5k app. And then Sunday would predominantly be a ride in the morning. Used to sort of participate with Grimsby Tribe. You normally do a social ride on a Sunday morning, and then on a Sunday evening maybe go for a swim again. So 2 swims, 2 or 3 runs, 2 or 3 rides. That sort of typically on a week. If I'm working away, I'll either take my running gear, or if it's get a hotel with a pool, I'll go for a swim, or I have occasionally taken a bike and gone out and done a bike. It's nice sometimes when I'm with my colleagues as well, we'll go for a run, or I've taken my bike. We did the Monsall Trail a couple of years ago, me and one of the lads, so it's quite nice.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, this is the 77 podcast, and it's like fascinating to find out how people like yourself just fit training in their own schedule. And all right, you're part of a club, but predominantly you train on your own, and it suits and it works, and you're obviously motivated to do that by yourself. You don't need anybody else to, you know what I mean, to get you to do that. And obviously you've been in it long enough now to know what works and what doesn't work for you. I do find that fascinating, how people get to a certain level and it just becomes, it's a lifestyle, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And you do tend to feel, if you don't do something, you feel like there's something wrong, something missing. Yeah. I've not been out for a run, I've not been out on a bike, I've not been for a swim. So that just drives you. And again, because I do spend a lot of time writing reports, I'm sort of sat at a desk. If I did that, and you get sweets around or chocolates, and you can quite easily consume. So it's about balancing your life between not eating too much and burning it off as well.
100%.
No, it's quite good. Certainly, I get around the country, and I get to Liverpool quite a bit. Discovered one of my colleagues. She introduced me to open water swimming. We was down in Bedford doing some training, and she took me around Box End.
Oh yeah.
Swims place. I mean, that's a really nice swimming place, but that was a little bit daunting, the first one. But then we was doing some training in Liverpool, and we went in the docks.
Yeah. Any jellyfish?
There was.
Yeah.
There's a funny story about her. She's a French, and she was really into her open water, and she'd done a few time trials, done a few triathlons and stuff. So I said, we can go swim at the docks. We went down there. We did one loop round, which was the big circuit event because it was in the summer. And I said, we're going to do another one. She went, I'm a bit worried about the jellyfish. And I went, what jellyfish? She said, it was full of them. And we'd gone for a second loop round, and at that point I'd realised that it was full of jellyfish. But I was just loving it the first time round. I never even observed any jellyfish whatsoever.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Me and Kate went over to watch a couple of our friends racing in Liverpool a few years back, and it was absolutely full of jellyfish as they were coming out. It was just like, so chapeau for swimming in that. Yeah. So what term do you use locally for open water?
Grimsby Tri, a couple of years ago, we used to use, we had our own little access to the docks through a guy, and that was quite good. Since then, a lot of them have now moved over to what was for Water Rats on the yacht club.
Right.
But there's sort of a £70 annual fee. I don't probably do enough to sort of warrant actually paying that up front. So I've been going out as far as Lincoln to activities away.
Probably about the best one around, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's a trek, isn't it? But
it is a trek, and it's an hour there and it's an hour back, so it does consume a lot of your day.
Yeah.
But I did have a job over in Lincoln last year. That's the only time I swam there was last year. I finished the job and then went to swim in there sort of late afternoon, which was quite convenient. But again, I know you've been out to Ocean Walkers. That's a little bit closer for us.
Yeah, it's 25 minutes, isn't it?
And that's a nice facility.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish he was a little bit more priced the same as activities away.
And he's just put his prices up again.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because we looked at it the weekend, and Kate said, God, it's £11.50 a swim.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's just...
It's time over money, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Really.
And if he just dropped it down a little bit, he'd probably make up with him out of people.
Was it £8 last year, I think?
Yeah,
like
could have been £9, yeah. And
it's like, and I know he's got to make some money because he's spent a lot of money on doing it and stuff, and I get it.
I like the Humber, sort of swimming the Humber. Obviously, got to keep an eye on the yaps and make sure that the water's clean and the tides are coming in.
You come out, you're filthy, aren't you? That's the only thing.
But the club regularly post when there's a group going down there. I feel more comfortable with a group because you know you're keeping an eye out for each other.
Yeah.
But I have gone down there just on a random morning, got up early and met with another group out there, and I just feel a bit more comfortable swimming with others.
Yeah, safe. You need to keep safe, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Right, so I think that's a great place to start off with some quick fire questions that I usually do at the end of the interview, and the first one is, what's your favourite bit of kit? And I think I know what you're going to say. Everybody says it.
The bikes.
Yeah.
Clearly, the TT is my favourite. The bike I've been drafting on second favourite. I think I've got a cyclocross bike which comes third. Did a bit of cyclocross, but that's tough. Yeah, but it keeps you fit through the winter.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've got a cyclocross bike, and I've always fancied having a go, but I've never done it.
It's not only physical; it's also mental.
Yeah.
Because you've just got to keep your eye on the track and avoid the logs and get up here and get up there. So it's very intense. 45 minutes of intense.
That was the thing with me that's really put us off. I didn't want to injure myself, coming off and crashing and injure myself and ruin the rest of the year or whatever. But I have fancied having a go. Yeah. So your bike then? Yeah.
Like everyone else.
Yeah, everybody else says the bike. It's the favourite. What are your favourite resources? And it could be books, videos, internet.
I've read a few books, certainly for my running, because I don't feel that my running is as good as the other age groupers in my age group. You sort of, when you're into draft racing, it all comes down to the running. So I read Dr. Jack Daniels' book on running, which is quite good. It sort of talks about breathing cycles and not just doing the same running all the time.
Yeah.
Long steady runs, faster shorter runs. I do interval runs along the old railway line, which runs along the back here and between the lampposts, just to try and step it up and drive it a little bit. And I've read sort of a lot of autobiographies, which I find interesting. A couple of cycling books as well. But I'd only really stumbled across podcasts after our conversation last weekend, of which I've listened to a number of yours and sort of found them quite interesting.
Yeah, there's some really good ones out there. There's one I listen to, and he's an Australian guy, and they're all predominantly talking to professionals, aren't you know, the triathlon professionals, and he's Australian, and he gets on there and he gets all the top guests on, and he's, you know, blunt as Australians are, and very factual about things. And I don't know whether you heard about the EPO scandal that was in triathlon a few weeks ago.
No, I haven't. No, I mean,
that was his mate, and he had him on pretty much after the story had broke. So, and that's called How They Train. That's a good one.
I obviously followed that through the Tour de France going back years ago, and I read, I think which one of the cyclists it is. He ended up managing Team Sky and then got booted out when all the EPO sort of.
Was it Shane Sutton?
Yates.
Oh yeah, Sean Yates.
Sean Yates, and that as a good book to read, and sort of some of the insights to some of the things which were going on. But, and it's a shame really. But again, sort of look at Lance Armstrong in terms of him being stripped of the tour. Everybody was taking it at that point in time, so it was a level playing field. And I've read Lance's book, because I think, you know, Lance is, just despite his being stripped of his medals, he's still someone that's absolutely amazing in terms of what he went through with his cancer. And
I agree. I think the thing that did him in was his personality and the amount of times that he lied and how horrible he was to people. You know, and he freely admits it now. Have you heard his podcast?
No.
It's We Do podcast. If you Google it, it'll come up. That's good. He's got George Incapi on there. His cycling buddy, and his ex-team manager Johan Brunel, that were in he managed the team and they were all in it, and that's a good listen.
I mean, it's quite phenomenal really what they did in terms of, you know, taking the blood, centrifuging the blood cells out and putting it back. I mean, you just think, how far do you go to cheat? It's just mental.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, everybody's like shocked at this triathlete Ironman. He's been tested positive, but he's not the only one. There must be more doing it. You know. I bet you there's like loads of age groupers that do stuff that they shouldn't do. Yeah. You know, but there's just no testing, is there? Or very, very few.
Yeah, I did pick up on that actually before we went to Italy. There was sort of stuff on doping and that, but I guess.
Yeah. But you would think that it's not going to be an age group. We do this for fun.
Yeah.
People take it seriously, don't they? And they get into all sorts. Unfortunately. But right. So we've done resources. What advice would you give to anybody wanting to get into triathlon, and then anyone who is in triathlon like to get into the age group?
Into the age group, I think, from my point of view, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah, you've just got to be dedicated. You got to put the effort in and go for it. But do it.
Yeah,
definitely. It's worth the experience. I mean, again, triathlon. Most people look at it and go, "Oh, you're mad." Why try and sort of struggle with 3 rather than focus on 1? And sometimes I sort of look at that myself. Maybe I would be a better runner if I wasn't cycling and swimming. Maybe I'd be a better cyclist. Maybe I'd be a better swimmer. But putting it all together, I sort of, it's good fun.
Yeah, I think the other thing on that is that me at the minute, because I'm injured with the Achilles, I can still swim and bike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I was only a runner, God, how frustrated would that be? And so you've got other things to look at, and obviously there's the strength element as well, and your core and all that sort of thing that you can look at while you're not being able to do one of the disciplines. So
regularly see some of the club members in the pool, and I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I'm injured. So like you say, you've taken advantage of extra swimming and things like that.
That's all you do. And then try and work on your weakness. For me, swimming, trying to work on your weakness while you can't do the other thing, and just increase it. So. And
again, I see some of the club members, certainly doing some of the longer distances, and you know that they are fast and they're quicker than you at sprint distance, and you think, if you wanted to do this, you wouldn't have to try that hard to actually achieve it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do wonder sometimes as well whether it's knowledge, whether people know about it. I don't think it's out there as much as it could be to people. It doesn't seem that way, and it's not easy to find out. I think it's getting more and more available, but when I started, it was only because I'd seen somebody in the club that had done it.
Yeah, I mean, for years I think I was sort of entering Clumber, and you'd see people in GBR tops, and you think, wow.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Yeah. But then again, we don't want to be shouting it too much because
I think
the chance of qualification will go down.
Our age groups are the biggest anyway. I mean, I don't know how many was in yours for the Darley Moor for the European Duathlon, but there was 47 in mine.
Yeah, well, I think there's 37 gone for qualification.
Yeah.
And is it 20 spots into
20 spots.
So you just think, this is oversubscribed, but it's our age. It's them people that have had kids, they've got a bit more cash in their pocket now, and they're out there doing it.
Yeah, and fair play, isn't it? It's nice to have that competition, I think. Because you can't just rock up. You've actually got to train and work for it. And if you get in, you get in. And if you don't, well, there's somebody better than you on the day. So you've got to.
It's really interesting. I mean, when we was in Italy, I got talking to a lad who was 20, and he was the only one in his age group. And you just think, God, if I'd have done this earlier, I might have had a better chance.
You find that, and you look at the age groups, and you think from the 18 up to, I don't know, maybe late 20s, early 30s, it's not so much. And then obviously as you get older, like the 70s and the 75s and onwards, it's not so much. But I bet you when we get to 70 and 75, there'll be full ones. There'll still be 50 in your age group, won't there?
Yeah.
The way things move on. So it's all good fun. And finally then, what are your short and your longer term goals?
Well, I think short-term goals is keep my fingers crossed and hope from Darley Moor we've got a qualification spot for next year, because I'm keen to get back out and do a bit more with GB on. I've got a race coming up, doing Rother Valley Triathlon in a couple of weeks. That's the first of this year for triathlon, first open water. Yeah. So I need to get an open water swimming before then, and that's more of a sort of get my appetite up ready for the triathlon in 8th of July, which is up in just above Newcastle.
Oh yeah, the Woodhorn.
That's it.
Yeah, we're looking to do that as well.
Yeah, so
because that's a qualifier, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, next year I'll be up for doing both.
Yeah.
But there's a big field again for the age group. Yeah. No idea what I'm sort of confronting now. At least when we've done a little bit of an age group, and you know where the stars are in your age group, you can sort of spot and see where you're at. But I'm going into this one blind.
Yeah.
And again, I always find open water's a bit different in it.
Yeah. Do you prefer it to pool swimming?
Yes and no. It's completely different ends of the spectrum, isn't it? Really. Yeah. I enjoy open water. Open water race can be a little bit more challenging. Certainly, we do the relays every year, and I always volunteer for doing a start and just get pushed underneath water, you get battered and what have you. But,
yes, it can be a bit traumatic at times.
Yeah. So again, that's that sort of hopefully takes you to the end of a qualification, and then got a few more. Woodall Spa returning this year.
Yeah.
So I'm booked in for Woodall Spa.
Oh, good.
Under new, I think it's under Keeley's are running it as first
triathlon
they've done, I think.
They're a running potential.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, running company, aren't they? Are
And
they out of Scunthorpe?
I'm not sure if it's Scunthorpe or Doncaster.
Maybe Doncaster.
Yeah, and then Brig,
yeah,
which has been pushed over because of Woodall, has been pushed over into October for the first time.
Well, that's a late one then, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I think that's. Oh, they've got Great North Run as well.
Have you?
Great North Run under somebody else's badge last year, so I'm doing it under my own badge this year.
Oh well, good luck with that.
And that, yeah, it's a good event.
Yeah.
Sort of first time I did it last year, a bit of an eye opener really. How many people there is and how disorganised it was.
I've never been, but we've seen it on the telly and it's like phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, like, it sort of didn't get anywhere near the pacer, which I should have been there last year, but I had quite a good run, zigzagging in and out of people that probably should have been behind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we have a local event as well, which I'll probably participate in November. One of the guys from Parkrun, he's called the Vigilantes, and they do what's called the Maravan. Don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't heard that. No.
It's normally a Saturday and a Sunday in November. For those people that like to run marathons, you can run one on a Saturday and one on a Sunday, and he does like a 4-berth relay alongside that on the Saturday. So 4 teams, 7 laps of a caravan park for a marathon. And then he also does a half marathon on a Sunday as well, which is quite nice. It's not a particularly massive event. Some people might say it's boring looking at caravans all the time doing laps, but I think laps are quite good because it breaks it down. It doesn't feel like you've got such a long way. Oh, that's 1 lap done, 2 laps done. So I'll probably pick that up and contemplating whether to do a bit of CX racing at the end of the year as well. So, but yeah, just for hope that I can get abroad next year and do a couple more races, all being well.
Cool. The longer term?
I've not thought beyond that. I'm looking at next year at the moment.
I like that.
I do like the thought of maybe, because I do feel weak on the run compared to the others in drafting, so might look at aquabike or something like that, maybe something for a bit of change. And yeah, I guess that's probably less common than duathlon is. So
yeah, I think
it's not
a couple of the guys in the club, that's what they were looking at. Joe Hunt, she's qualified before and raced aquabike. Can't remember where she raced, and she's got one coming up as well, but I can't think for the life of me now where it is. So
maybe fancy having a look at that, maybe for 2025 possibly.
Yeah, so. A bit different.
Yeah,
cool. Well, that's a great place to finish. Thank you once again for taking your time out to chat.
Thanks for the opportunity as
really
well.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel honoured.
It's been really nice to sit across the table from somebody for a change instead of Zoom. Makes a big difference. So yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks once again to John for agreeing to come on the podcast and share his journey. And it was nice to get some fresh eyes on a relatively new age group athlete and share his experience of how he's trained and how he's got to the race and being able to represent age group, and secondly what he thought of the whole age group experience. And if you want to follow John, you can follow him on Instagram, and his Instagram title is Johnny_try_ing, and it's John Armstrong. So you can follow him on there and see how he develops and how he gets on. I certainly will be. And that's about it for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you would like to drop us an email with any comments, or if you want to get in touch and come on the podcast yourself and share your journey, our email address is agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Instagram, and our Instagram title is amp_1967, and you can DM us on there, and again leave any comments, and if you want to come on the pod, just DM us. We're on Facebook at ampgb, and we're on Twitter at Agegroup Multisport Podcast. and we would really appreciate it wherever you listen to this, if you could subscribe and leave us a message and a rating, and that really does help us to reach a broader audience. And tell all your friends about it, tell your club mates, and get them to listen in. Some really good guests on over the last 76 episodes, and we can all learn from them. So that's about it, and don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.